registration will be coming soon. On December 7th, we'll be having a virtual reality experience of Gaza. It'll be a Gaza exhibit, and it'll be here at PAC. And then December 8th, Archbishop Abdullah Hanna, the Archbishop of Al-Quds, will be joining us online live. It'll be in Arabic, but will be translated into English. Make sure to register. That will also be up live on our registration website and social media soon. So without further ado, I'm very excited for tonight's presentation. This is the second time we have Serena Rasul with us today. She's a PhD student at Columbia. Last time she came, she helped us learn about the encampment movement at Columbia that she was a part of. And today she's actually going to be here talking about her experience in her doctorate program, which is actually on Palestinian folklore. And then she and her mom will be teaching us some of the songs. And I'd also like to give a big shout out to Khato Jihad. Khato Jihad joined us today from Virginia, so we're so excited and honored that she did. So if we can all give her a big round of applause. Thank you both. I'm going to hand it off to Serena.
Thank you, Asma. Thank you guys so much for coming. We are humbled to see so many people here and then commend so many different types of people. So thank you so much for coming. I'm gonna just briefly kind of describe how we're gonna have the event. So I just want to briefly go through some of my work, and then we will, my mom and I will join you guys and sing a couple of songs, and then we're gonna break out into groups. We're gonna have 4 breakout groups, and everybody in this room will leave tonight having performed a muhaha, the genre is called muhaha, hahawiya is singular, or Ghanawiya, which is like a Palestinian women's circle song. So I see that you guys have the handout there, and so we'll walk you through that. So that's part of the workshop part. Since we are starting a little bit behind, I'm just going to kind of run through this really quickly, and feel free to ask me questions after. So what I work on is fertile memory. So how our music, how our songs preserve our connection to land. If you pay attention to our songs and dissect them, you'll find that a lot of our songs talk about plants and animals very specific to the land in Palestine. So they'll say, for example, Warek Dawali is known across the Levant, across Bilad al-Sham. There are very specific phrases that we use, that Palestinians use in our folklore when we're talking about the topography, the geography, the landscape. So we really preserve the landscape through song. And I'll show you examples of what that looks like. So I'm sure we are all familiar with this photo. I'm not going to re-traumatize everyone tonight, I promise you, but there's a reason I'm showing you this photo. In 2014, Daher Nasser, a Palestinian farmer from the West Bank, awoke to find that the IOF had bulldozed about 1,500 of his trees, and he said, I had figs, apples, apricots, olives, and grapevines. Nasser told Haaretz, speaking about his ruined orchard in the valley below the Palestinian village of Na'im. And he said, why would they destroy them? I raised those trees like I raised my own children. That quote has always stuck with me, because that is how much we value our connection to land, how much we value our connection to the trees and the geography, and you can see the emotion on this woman's face. And so I find that folklore and our music, despite the number of buildings that they have destroyed, the number of people that they have killed, it is our stories and our music that has maintained our history, that has maintained us. So despite what they tried to destroy, if we maintain our oral history, they can't take that from us. And so that's why I've embarked on this journey. So again, song serves as a vessel for cultural identity and resilience, and Palestinian folk music and our oral traditions. And when I say oral traditions, we don't just sing songs, we also have chants, we have a variety of other oral traditions. Serve as a bridge between the past and the present and transcends borders. It connects us to our roots and fosters a connection between the diaspora and the homeland. And again, it carries fertile knowledge such as the trees, agriculture, plants, animals, even cultivation practices. The way we use to interact with the land, it's in the songs, it's in the music. The tools we use, it's in the music. How we use those tools, why we use those tools, when we use those tools, it's all in the music. And again, I'll show you examples of that. So my work specifically is I look at environmental motifs throughout the music. The folklore really, it predates dispossession. It predates 1948. We've always been connected to the land. And so this is a testament to our connection to the land itself. So fertile memory, what is fertile memory? I know that sounds very like wonky, academic nonsense, but it literally means holding the memory of the land in the song. And I look at it in these different, through these different angles. So there are songs where people are singing and remembering the land. There are songs where the land is remembering the people. And there are songs where the land actually sings to itself. And I'll show you an example of that, where a plant will sing to another plant and lament about why he's not as tall. And then there are songs where the land remembers God. So there's a lot of spiritual, obviously, connection, both in the Muslim and Christian tradition. The reason this is important is there's clearly an ecological apartheid that's happening. Farmers are disconnected from their lands. We have foreign trees that were brought into Palestine because, quote, the settlers said it would make the landscape look less alien and more European. So these are pine trees that actually are known to cause wildfires. These are not natural to Palestine. These contain specific resins on them that can catch fire very easily, and they require a ton of water. That's how we know that they are not native to Palestine. The Zionist government provides tax incentives to companies to open in the Rafah and the West Bank, close to Palestinians. So we are seeing Palestinians are not only subjected to these very, displacement, but also they're trying to pollute the lands around them in every way that they possibly can. And then with Gaza, there was a 2019 forensic investigation where the IOF, or the Zionist government, was spraying crop-killing herbicides. And so this is a very clear, there's a very, very clear path from where what they're trying to do is not only separate us from the land, but also make the land, make us get sick from the land, right? That's the goal, is to disconnect us in every way possible. But now I'm going to talk about some of the fun stuff. Okay, so Palestine has over 2,000 plant species, 54 of which are found nowhere else on Earth. And some of these are, again, mentioned in the music. Again, that's why it's important to look at oral traditions. How many of you are familiar, before we get into Palestinian specific music, how many of you are familiar with Arabic music in general? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you know what the maqamat are? A few of you. Can someone explain? I'm looking at you. Yeah.
Well, from what I understand, there are different scales that really are often possessed in
Yeah, so in Arabic music, there are scales. For those of you who are Muslim, you're going to be familiar with some of these scales. We call them maqamat because the Quran is read in various maqams. So if you've heard maqam ajam, maqam ras, maqam hijaz, these are ways that the Quran is recited. So you'll hear the adhan recited in various maqamat. But in Arabic music, outside of the adhan and recitation of the Quran, a lot of our music is performed in one of these scales. And these scales came about, there's a lot of folklore around how these scales came about, but these scales are used to elicit very specific emotions. So each scale is supposed to represent a different emotion. And an instrumentalist, someone who plays the qanun or the dirbeka or the buzuk or any of these Arabic instruments, they actually become almost chefs in that they think about what they want their audience to feel, and they start to piece together all of these different maqamat to get that emotion. So it's literally like a recipe. They start to think through, okay, I'm gonna include a little bit of rust, a little bit of hijaz, a little bit of this, that, and the other to elicit a very specific emotion. So I'm just gonna show you a quick video because I don't know if I'm explaining it that well. Can you guys hear that? Maybe not. So, while we're working on that, I'll just briefly explain what's in this video. So this individual was reciting different maqam, reciting the Quran in different maqams, and he was explaining how you wouldn't use a maqam that's more jovial to talk about a very somber issue.
It's not about maqamat. Quran is about the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So we know that there are different maqams where we can read Quran differently.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين
الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين.
So what is the purpose of it? Can you explain this to us?
So for those of us who don't know what maqam or maqamats are essentially different melodies. Now, they don't necessarily come from Quran, but there are different melodies in which you can recite in. The issue is when people start making Quran about maqamat. Quran is not about maqamat. Quran is about the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, contemplating them, learning them, memorizing them, implementing them. But the melodies help us, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا, and recite the Quran with measured and beautiful intonations. And reciting in different melodies helps us and enables us to recite the verses with their diligence, with their emotion, because the words are beautiful, and it is up to us to recite in a beautiful voice, right? So the different maqamat, now that we're talking about that, helps us to recite verses in the proper emotion, because each melody comes with its own emotion. And you'll hear it when I give examples in general, right? So, for example, I would not recite verses about Jahannam in a happy melody. It doesn't make sense, right? So, let me give you an example. Let's start basic, yeah? So the most neutral and most basic maqam, there's about 7 or 8 major ones. I'm probably good at like 5 or 6, okay? So I'll give you the ones that I'm good at, inshallah. Sika, I cannot do, so I will not give you the demonstration for that one. A good example of Sika is the nasheed, طلع البدر علينا. The original melody, that's Sika. The most basic one and the most neutral one, you have maqam bayati. With maqam bayati, you can go into the other maqamats. Okay, there's openings in the melody. So the example of maqam bayati is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Salah is a very, very sad maqam. You can be sad when you're reciting about verses about Jannah. You can be sad, like a happier sad, when you're reciting verses about Jannah. You know, it's all about the emotion that the verses bring out of you. Okay, so Salah is Inna lil-muttaqina mafazan hadaiqa wa a'naba wa kawa'iba atwaba wa ka'san dihaqa la yasma'una fiha lagwan wala kidhaba جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا. Sabah is difficult for me.
How many of you were familiar with those? How many of you knew that the Quran was recited in these different scales? So that is just an example in Islam, but outside of Islam, there's a very, very rich musical tradition that uses these scales, and I want to show you some of the instruments that you might have seen before, you might be familiar with. So this, for example, is the oud. Does anyone play the oud? Okay. So the oud is a very old instrument. It predates, a lot of the music that we hear. It has a bent edge. There are very technical terms to describe it, but it has a bent edge to keep the strings in a certain position. And you can play a variety of different ouds. Does anybody play piano? So kanun, this is a very difficult instrument. It's 73 strings, and the way you change scales with this is there are these edges here that you can't really see in this picture, but you would actually, as you're playing, you would actually start to transition these to get different scales. And you would do that to get what we call quarter tones. So what makes Arabic music specifically different from any other type of music is we have microtones, they're called microtones, and quarter tones. So the best way to describe that is on a piano, when you hit two notes, Arabic music, between those two notes, it has like thousands of other notes between those two notes. Those are called microtones and quarter tones. And so the way you get those microtones is by adjusting here. And that's going to become important when we start singing because you'll suddenly start to hear these little tiny microtones as we start to sing. The ney, this is an instrument that, it's a wind instrument. It's pretty common. I'm sure most of you have heard the ney. The Rebecca, we have one here. One of you lucky people is going to be playing the Rebecca for us. You don't know it yet. The Rabab, again, a very ancient instrument. And the buzuk. The buzuk is one of my favorites. I just love the sound that comes out of this. A dear friend of mine plays this very beautifully. And so I could never, but it's a stunning instrument. So that's just generally what it looks like. Let me do a review here. Okay. I don't want to get into too much detail, but I did want to show you what it looks like when you're looking at Arabic music on sheet music. So these are, again, all of the different maqamat, and this is actually what they look like. And these here, these are the quarter tones, these are the microtones, and so you're getting this variation. And you can kind of see it follows a very specific pattern. This is just a normal scale pattern, but you can see these little tones throughout, and that's how it changes. That's what makes it different. And again, each one is representative of a different emotion. Okay, so this is the academic in me coming out. I'm trying not to go into too much detail, but before Bach, before Beethoven, before anyone you've ever heard in the West, there was Al-Farabi. And Al-Farabi wrote the very first music theory book. He was Muslim, he wrote the very first music theory book. It's called Filasuf no, that's not it. That's another, that's a philosopher. Kitab al-Musiki al-Kabir. So the great book on music. This guy pioneered it for everyone else in Europe. The way these maqam were sourced is very interesting. There's a lot of information about it, but one of the most interesting is that musicians had observed certain ideal relationships between the maqams and zodiac constellations. So looking into the sky was one of the ways that they pulled inspiration for these various, what we saw earlier, these various inflections and microtones. And so the maqams are divided into these groups. And as you can see here, during Qasim al-Jahiliyyah, which would be the pre-Islamic period, they would align various maqam to zodiacs. Ataba and Mijana are also sung outside generally, and they're sung very lamentful, and there are these beautiful kind of introductions that happen with them. And again, this is usually about like long lost love or long lost connection to land or your home or something along those lines. So we can get into those. I just want to give you guys an example. Being mindful of time. Sorry, I'm rushing through this. But I just want to show you some examples of what
The over the topest. For the first week of the day is that, how much was that? Oh,
this video, and so I'm gonna quiz you. Okay? I want you to tell me, what did you hear? Those of you who know the genres, what did you hear? What kind of genre? I want you to raise your hand and tell me. Yes. Mijana, yes, Mijana. Arab al-Una, yes, that's also a genre. Zajal kaman, yeah. Anyone else? Mawal, aywa. In the beginning, she had a mawal. In the mawal, she was, before she got to like a tempo, before she got to actually singing, she started to lament, and she's kind of like singing these long, drawn out notes. So I want to ask another question. What plants did you hear mentioned? Zaytun, good job, buddy. Za'atar al-Maramiyya. Luz al-Akhdar, yep. Anything else? Yeah. Yeah? The bird? Bulbul is bird, yes, yes. Sahrab, yes. So this is just an example of, I just wanted to show you how, songs that we're used to hearing all the time, and we take for granted, actually does provide us a very specific roadmap for who we are, what we value, the plants that we used to eat and cook with, the plants that have a specific meaning that we hold to high regard. They mean something different in the music. And so, oh, by the way, does anybody know who this is? Do you guys know what happened to her last year? Yeah, she was actually arrested for liking a post. She just literally liked a post on Facebook, and they took her in. Alhamdulillah, she's been released and she's on tour, so I recommend you guys go see her. The next thing I want to show you, this is a Christian mijana. So we have very similar traditions, the Muslims and the Christians, and we have very similar musical traditions. And so I just wanted to show you what a mijana looks like from the Christian tradition. Listen, I'm going to ask you questions.
أي حلوة حبك وصلبينا وعلى صدرك وزينا وصلبينا يا في حنينا وصلبينا عدونا بها حب وعداء وذكرنا عن الفقراء ظلت مسيحنا بنينا الدم عن خده ومسحنا بإيمان الله والعذرة ومسيحنا حنا علينا النظرة يا حنان.
Okay, did anybody hear any reference to any type of geography? Jabal, there you go. So this is what I pay attention to in my research. I pay attention to where these songs are sourced from, what geographically they reference, and then I cross-reference a lot of that to for example, the Tatriz from that region. So, for example, in Ramallah we have a Hawiya that talks about the dik, the rooster. The rooster is a very common motif in our Tatriz. So you'll find the rooster في رام الله وأهل رام الله around the surrounding area will have the deek represented over and over and over. And so then I cross-reference that with the music. And then I'm able to actually picture in my mind what my ancestors experienced, right? They were clearly interacting with the deek, which is the rooster, every day. That's why it would be so common in the music, why it would be on the clothes, and it clearly held some sort of meaning or regard to it. So that's what I look at. So let's see. The next thing I want to show you. Okay, so this is a men's tradition. The men have a very rich tradition. This is called sahja. How many of you know what sahja is? Okay, a few of you, yeah. So my dad is from Al-Bira, my mom is from Al-Mazra' al-Sharqiyya, and so I grew up with I remember in Al-Bira we would close down the street, string up the lights, bring out the plastic chairs, and the men would just sing sahja all night before the wedding. So this is in America, this video, but I just kind of wanted to show you what sahja looks like. The themes that you'll hear are usually Sallu al Nabi, singing to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and to the bride and groom, the family of the groom. So you'll hear a lot of these, but this is one example. Okay, can anybody tell me what you heard? Anyone? Yep. So this was obviously a religious one, al-khadra, right? So there's a reference to various religious leaders, right, or religious elements. And this again is usually traditionally performed at night before the wedding. It's just men. Women go, but they sit on the side and they eat peanuts or turmos or whatever. And you know, we just have a good time judging all the people dancing. Who's the better dancer or not? I probably shouldn't say that, but we do. I mean, that's what we did when we were little. It was very fun. But these songs actually are very, very deeply meaningful. They're very old, hundreds and hundreds of years old. And this particular person in the middle, there's always someone in the middle, al-Bada'i, and he's always leading the group. Unfortunately, this generation, we're losing a lot of al-Bada'in, those that can stand in the middle and actually start these. So, you know, my goal is to try to help preserve and revive this role. And it's usually a respected elder, so you can't just be anybody, okay? You need to be liked and respected. So this has to usually be a respected elder who can stand up there and lead. People want to be led by this individual. This usually was, someone who was either the eldest or led the community. This would also be the same individual that would partake in any negotiations. So before the British came, the way we handled conflict was binna. So there would be very respected elders who would sit down across the table from one another if there was any conflict, and they would discuss the conflict and come to what we call transitional justice, or like they would come to a resolution on their own. This was usually, al-Bada'i would also serve in those roles sometimes. So yeah, that's that. This, we all know. I'm gonna play just a little bit because I can't help it. Okay, so what was this? Dabka. Does anybody know though? This is where it's tricky. Why? Where did dabka come from? Ooh.
I don't know if this is true, but is it that you're stomping your feet to be closer to the ground, like next to the ground? I was
Close.
wondering if that's true.
Very close. Yes, behind.
It's stomping on the feet because they were building houses, and the mud houses, and they like come together communities to build the.
Yeah. So two reasons. So Ala al-Una used to be a call to the community. They would say Ala al-Una, like they would call people over because they needed help building. They needed help cultivating. And the reason Dabka actually came about was one of the reasons was to stomp mud on the top of the house. But it was actually, another reason was before we had heavy industrial machinery to cultivate the land, people would join hands and they would stomp on the wheat. They would stomp the wheat down together in unison. That's how you would actually cultivate the land, the wheat down. So men would come together and stomp it all the way down until they could go down. The songs came about because in the winter, they would get cold and they wanted something to keep them busy. So as they were stomping together, they would start singing with one another. And so you got this combination of song and dance while they're actually cultivating the land together. And I'm going to end this segment on two of the most like popular or well-known songs, Palestinian songs. I know it says it at the top, but yell out if you know the song is. Sorry. I promise you're gonna sing soon. You're all gonna sing soon. So I stopped on this slide because I just want to briefly tell you the story of this song. So this song it used to be a woman telling a young man, wait, don't go to foreign lands. Because at the time, hundreds of years ago, everybody wanted to leave and expand and see what was happening in Europe and what was happening across the world. So, this woman, she would say, stop, young man, like, wait, ya zarif al-tul, this tall, shab, khalik, stay here, stay in your land, it's ahsan lak, it's better for you. Don't go to these foreign lands, right? Over time, for Palestinians, the woman in this song morphed to be the land itself, saying, don't go. I'm better for you. This land is better for you than anything else. So the original singer was this old woman, and it turned to be the land itself singing to its people to not leave. I got chills. I could talk about these things forever. So this is the last song I'm going to show you in this segment. It's called Jafra. And I have such a beautiful story about this one too. Does anybody know the story of Jafra? Oh, okay, this is my favorite story. So at Columbia, when we were rising up last year, the Palestinian students, we came together and we called ourselves Jafra. And we called ourselves Jafra after this song. Jafra and Zarif were supposed to marry each other. But on the night of the wedding, Jafra left. Nobody knows why Jafra left, but Jafra left. And Zarif went and he was so in love with Jafra. He could not fathom why she would have left, why she would have left the night of their wedding, why she didn't stay. He found out later that she had went to another village and she had married someone else later. Hold on, it gets better. But Zarif was so in love with Jafra that the story is that he would go to any event that was happening, any wedding, any celebration, any tawjih, inshallah tawjih, anything, okay? He would walk in, he would come center stage, he would take the mic or whatever was center stage, and he would sing this song. He would sing about his love for Jafra. And this, again, has morphed over time because Palestinians, no matter where we go, no matter what celebration or event or anything that's happening, we take center stage and we sing about our love for Palestine. So that's the story of Jafra. She was happy to be on her own. So now we don't have enough time to get into what I wanted to get into, so we're gonna have to just move on to the next segment. But the next segment is going to actually be my mom and I. So, how many of you know my mom from TikTok? She's a little TikTok famous. She loves. Yeah. Okay. How folklore. But so I'm gonna you just welcome my mom again. And so what we're gonna do now is before we start singing in breakout groups, we're gonna actually I wanted my mom to give you guys more of a sampling than what you're gonna hear in the breakout group. So we're gonna go through 2 hahawi or muhaha, and then we're gonna do 2 ghanawiyat. These ghanawiyat are women's songs that are sung at weddings. And they have different, what I want you to pay close attention to is their tune, the note, the pitch, they're very different melodically from one another. And so I might quiz you on that. But we're gonna start off with the hahawi first, and she'll do the hahawi, and then we'll translate it for you. Mom, you ready? Yeah, so the first one is going to be actually a hahawi for Gaza.
Yeah, like Serena mentioned, every hahawiya, every ghanawiya, it has so much behind it, so much meaning that goes with it. And it's very hard sometimes for me to even explain it to Serena, of how much goes behind every word that comes out. So هذه الهوية لغزة يعني غزة is no matter what's going on, what would go on, it'll come back. It'll come back because أرض فلسطيني and Palestinian, and it will rebuild. It will be coming back inshallah غزة. So هذه الهوية is devoted to غزة. Hey غزة يا كلعة حديدية. Hey طلعوا عليكي من 2000 لل100. Hey طلعوا عليكي لا يهدوها. Hey ما فشلت تنحاهم ولا ينضلوها. So كلعة حديدية, it's the rock. I mean, there's nothing stronger than a rock, but still, it has also steel in the rock, And no matter how much it's gonna go and destroy this rock, I mean, this is a steel rock. Like, for example, in the American culture, there's something called steel magnolia, which is no matter how precious, no matter how, it will still be strong. It will still be كلعة حديدية, which is steel in the rock. So you can imagine how strong that would be. Okay. And طلعوا عليها من 2000 لل100, يعني no matter how much of oppression, no matter how much they come to destroy it, no matter how much they come to do all this harm to the people, to the children, to the land, it will still prevail. It will still prevail. طلعوا عليها ليهدوها, which is to destroy it, but no matter how much they destroyed, it's still there's a lot of things that are still going, that it's still good, that it's still strong. Best shoe, it will prevail. It will prevail, and they will not burn it down. As much as they burn down, and as much as they destroy, it'll still come out. Inshallah, it will still come out strong.
The last line. The last line was. Can you repeat the last line? Okay. So did you guys understand that last line?
Whoever came, the enemy that came to destroy it, they're going to be shameful in the long run. They would do something like that, especially to the children and women and innocent people that are there.
Thank you. So now we're going to do a second hahawi. This one is not. What is the theme of this one?
This one is for just a bride.
A bride.
That's getting married, and that something that's something of a value to the woman, to the bride, in Palestine or else anywhere else in the world. So this one, hey ya arus ya malake, hey ya lulya fi shabake, hey ya bayik واهلك يخلف عليهم, hey يا عريسك واهله يحطوا له البركه. So no matter, the bride is a beautiful, precious queen. Okay, and she's just like a lulia fi shabaka. Lulia fi shabaka, when you take the pearls out of the ocean or out of the lakes or out of wherever, and it's inside the net. It's coming out. How beautiful the pearl is in the net that's being confiscated and being coming into this precious life. And at the same time, she is a precious pearl, and she will be leaving her family and leaving her parents and leaving her ancestors, her father's home. So a special thank you to her dad and all the rest of the family. And also she's wished goodness and it's wished precious thankfulness and precious welcoming from the groom and his family.
She's precious. I love that one. Lulia fi shabaka. So a pearl in the net is what you're supposed to envision. So next we're going to move on to al-Ghanawiya, and these songs are again sung in circles by elder women usually. I mean all women, but usually it's led by elder women. At weddings or at celebrations, it can be again graduating from high school. It can be actually there's songs and Hawiya that we sing when prisoners are released. There are so many different occasions that these songs are sung at. But today we're going to do two, and the first one is focusing on.
This one is on a groom or somebody, a gentleman that had accomplished many things in his life, like a doctorate degree or a bachelor's degree or a high school degree. So we come to the mother of this gentleman, whether he's a haris or he's a student, and we say, and it goes this way. وين أمي العريس تنهنيها, وين أمي العريس تنهنيها, تنرقص ونغني في علاليها, تنرقص ونغني في علاليها, وين أمي العريس تنفرحها, وين أمي العريس تنفرحها, عريسنا فرحة, وين أمي العريسنا فرحة, تنرقص ونغني في مطارحها, تنرقص ونغني في مطارحها, تنرقص ونغني في مطارحها, تنرقص ونغني في مطارحها. Which is, bring me the mother or the sister of the bride, so we can wish her well and wish her with gladness about this event or the occasion that's going to take place in her house or in her castle. Her home is her castle, yeah. So that's one, and then. The other one is also, this is more pertaining to as well as Aris, more than a diploma or just a groom. بتقول إما يا ثوبي نديت 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 والحمد لله يا ندري وفيت والحمد لله يا ندري وفيت ندري وفيت والحمد لله يا ندري وفيت بتقول ستة يا ثوبي طرست 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 والحمد لله العارس جوزت والحمد لله العارس جوزت والحمد لله العارس جوزت والحمد لله العارس جوزت. Now, before we came, I was explaining to Serena that the mom usually does embroider or make a dress, a formal dress for her son's wedding. But the grandmother, Nadi is more or less dry cleaning it naturally. Okay, and because she's already been through her children, possibly with her, this is like her grandchild that's getting married. But she gets the thobe, which is the dress, and right before at dawn, she hangs it out outside. Hopefully it'll be a sunny day, and the mist from the early morning will come on the dress. And then when the sun comes out, it's drying it, and hopefully it's warm enough to where if there's anything on the dress would be somewhat dry cleaned naturally on the clothesline, So nadete means more or less for the grandmother, nadete. But the taraste, which is the mother, she embroidered the brand new dress that she's gonna wear for her son's wedding. Okay, so yeah, that's my two songs, and yeah, if you have any questions, anything that
So, again, what I look at in that song when I hear that is nedete, which is nada, which is dew, morning dew, right? So again, that song tells us a lot about our perception and our interaction with the outside world, with our environments. The fact that you can take a dress outside and hang it in the hopes that the morning dew and the afternoon sun would sanitize it means that the morning dew was dewy enough, the afternoon sun was hot enough, that you could do something like that. So there's a lot to discern from, examining the kind of environmental aspect of these songs. And then of course, like how we interacted with the environment. We've become so displaced, living in Jersey, right? Yeah, we just don't have that same interaction, but by listening to these traditions, we can really envision how our grandmothers lived, what they did, how they interacted with the world. So on that note, and in that tradition, we're going to sing. So what I'm asking is, I'd like to split the room into 4 groups. We're gonna I want you to form a circle here, a circle here, a circle here, a circle here. You won't have to stand up in front of everyone, just in your circle. Don't speak out. Don't Sneak out. Okay. So when you sign up to come to a workshop, one of my workshops, you're actually gonna work, okay? So first things first, to start off just a little bit of fun, I want each group to nominate someone to do the zahruta. Okay. And I want you to stand up. Whoever is the nominated Zahari, there we go. Zahata. Okay? Okay, you join this group. You're struggling. Yeah, stand up. Okay. And so we're gonna have a Zahruta off. Okay. This is just to get us started, okay? Okay, so this is group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, and I want you to keep track of who you think sounds best, because we're going to vote at the end. Okay? So group 1, that's you. What's your name? Maddie. Okay, Maddie.
يا هي يا مرحبا يا ضيوفنا ضفتونا يا هي يا حلات الكل بركة وشرفتونا يا هي يا عقبال ما نيجي لعندكم يا هي ونيجي زي ما اجيتونا
Can you name group 1?
وهي يا حوضتش بالله وحدا وهي والثانية تنتين وهي والثالثة خرزة زرقاء وهي والرابعة ترد عينك العين
This is dedicated to Pat.
هاي يا بنات المركز كيف عليكم؟ هاي يا بنات المركز بقولوا صبرنا ما صبرنا شيء هاي يا صبرنا صبر الطريق على الهيال والماشي هاي يا صبرنا ما يروحش تعبنا هيا صبرنا إن شاء الله يرجعنا على بلادنا.
Group 4, can you beat that?
ايه يا سارة اختي الصغيرة. ايه ما في احلى منها. ايه يا الله يخلي لي اياكي.
Make some noise for Amani Group 1. Okay, Group 2. Group 3. Group 4. No, I think it was 2. Amazing. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to get to these, now that we've done the icebreaker. So we're going to do one Hahawi and one Hanawiya. The first Hahawi, this is called Al-Wadi, the valley. This is actually, that's not the real name of it, but I named it that because we don't really have names for these Hahawi. Just, you're like, So, what I'd like you guys to do is to everybody in the circle, go around and try to attempt saying the first line. And then if you want, you can stand up and try it in your group. You don't have to do it in front of everybody. But we want you to practice. My goal is, and the reason is, I know this is all fun and games, but really, the point of this workshop is so that you leave here knowing something that you can recite, you can perform later, right? Because we want this tradition to live on. It's very important that this tradition lives on. So the way the Hahi usually starts off is hey, okay? شوف الفلاح رايح واد العين عصرية. Okay, do you guys know what that, well, it's translated here, but this is one of my favorites because it gives a very specific idea of what the fallah, how he is revered and respected. This fallah is a farmer. So yeah, give it a try and nominate who you think is the best in your group, basically. Just the first sentence. If you want to do the whole thing, you can, but it might be challenging.
يا شفت الفلاح رايح وادي العين عصرية رايح وادي العين
I can just comment and then turn it off.
You know,